Hello everybody, and here we go, live once again for another show. Hello, that looks good. Here we go. Good evening everybody, and welcome to another live show. So hey everyone, welcome aboard. This is the live tech show number 96 already, number 96, and we are of course Tuesday, November 14th, 2017. This is a live tech show. We are here every Tuesdays 3 p.m. Eastern. That's 2000 hours Universal Time. We have tech news, we answer questions, we have a lot of fun. If you have a Gmail account, why not join a fantastic gang in the chat room that is just great, having fun, answering questions also, and just, having plain, fun while we are actually live from Montreal. And it's nice to see everybody here. So, this is show number 96, pretty cool. We are getting close to our 100th show. I still don't know what I'm going to do special in a 100th show, but we're getting close to that. And, I'm still amazed we're at 96. I mean, time flies when you think about it. So, hope you enjoy our show. And like I said, we're here every Tuesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern. Of course, all of this would not be possible without donations. Donations have been helping me tremendously in the past year in actually making things better. So, of course, PayPal at paypal.me/shortwave, or if you were using the old Yahoo email, it still works. You can become a patron. I have 11 patrons right now that actually are giving me a little something every month. And you set your limit, you set whatever amount you want to give, and it's a great way to have a recurring, something that actually is taken from your credit card. If you don't have a credit card, PayPal is cool for that. You don't need a credit card to actually make donations. You can actually have donations taken from your checking account if you wish to do so. And I want to thank everybody that have donated, and for those that can't, don't worry about it. It's quite all right, and thanks. Really, it's been helping me a lot in the past year. Okay, in the news today, Patch Tuesday is upon us. Yes, it might not feel like a Patch Tuesday because we're already mid-month, and it's one of the latest Patch Tuesdays you can ever have. But yes, Microsoft opened the Patch Tuesday updates at 1 p.m. Eastern. I updated my machine, went well, took about, I don't know, the update itself took maybe 5 minutes. It wasn't very long. It has, of course, the cumulative updates for Windows 10. It has a patch for Adobe Flash again. And of course there's security updates in there. There might be some bug fixes also on Windows 10. So on Windows 7, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10, check your updates. There's security updates out there. You wonder what's in here? I'll be, of course, posting a video later today with all of what's inside. I was not able because the security log that they post that give all the details of what's fixed and what's what's critical or not was still not posted at 2 p.m. so I wasn't able to really check it out. So after the show, it's probably going to be online. We'll know more about what are the updates in there, and of course, to stay safe, Patch Tuesday is something that needs to be done to make sure that you have your security updates in there. So check out your updates. You can wait after the show. You don't have to do it right now, but you can't. You can check it out. And as for the Insider, well, the Insider gets only the software removal tool. It's the regular Windows that's updated because our Insider is not on Patch Tuesday updates. It has its own updates that come through the different builds we've got. So And by the way, nice to see everybody on board. Tim Robinson, Alex Tuttle, nice to have you here. Albert Zappa, pretty cool to have you here. Yes, Tom Flies, absolutely, absolutely. Douglas Elliott, nice to have you here. Santa outfit for number 100. Well, we'll be close to Christmas, so why not? But I do need a new beard. The Santa outfit isn't too bad. The problem is the beard. I need a really nice beard. I'll have to get myself a beard somewhere. Cycler39, nice to have you here. K. Harry Vegito, nice to have you here. Christine Bowman, nice to have you here on board. Douglas Elliott, we have also Bobby Burgess, and anybody else that I'm missing, say hello please. I want to say hi to everyone. Sam Gibson, nice to have you on board, pretty cool. Nice to have this familiar names and faces, and pretty cool. So yeah, well, you should have updates, Tim. If they're not appearing right now, they'll be appearing a little later for sure, because we are on Patch Tuesday today. Keifus Matthews, nice to have you here. Keifus. Gerald Nichols, nice to have you here. Marty Nichols, nice to have all of you here. So did he say beard or beer? Both. Beer and beards. Albert Zappa. Both. So anyways, Patch Tuesday is upon us. It's that time of, it's the second Tuesday of each month. And this one is very late because, you know, the first of the month fell on a Wednesday. So this is the latest it is possible to do, basically. And really, really nice. So check out your updates. You can wait until after the show. You don't have to do the updates while the show is happening. You can wait until after the show and, of course, apply them after the show is done. Cool Tech, nice to have you here. And it's pretty cool to have everybody on board. Hey, Grimple Pearls, nice to have you on board. And hope you are well also. So Patch Tuesday, of course, second Tuesday for Windows 7, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10. The updates are available. And by the way, talking of updates, for those that have watched my video, hey to Charlie 1900, nice to have you on board. It was just so funny that it's just so funny that yesterday my old 10-year-old Dell machine, I saw a little notification and I was looking and it says, oh, okay, you have a feature update. And when I looked at the update, it was, oh, this is 1703, which is Creator's Update from the month of April, of March of, you know, of this year. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm gonna, you know, finally it's there. And as soon as it's done and everything's there, and it's running and everything's working, it's just funny because I clicked Windows Update just to look at what, if there's anything else, and it says, oh, by the way, you've got a feature update, 1709. Okay, so I kind of, it took like 2 hours to go from Anniversary Update to Creators Update, and then it took about 4 hours to go from Creators Update to the Fall Creators Update, but now it's updated. And everything went well, by the way. Everything went okay. No problems, no issues. I mean, it did 2 major updates and it works perfectly. I used it this morning just to see if everything was going okay. Seems to work perfectly. So it just, you know, I was thinking of the poor people that already are stressed out by a major update, and then you get that update and you're like, oh really? God, poor, you know, poor regular users out there that just have these 2 coming back to back. It's like hours and hours of updates. It's totally crazy. Okay, Firefox Quantum is here. We have a new version of Firefox. If you want to see what's in it, I've posted a little quick look at Firefox. I have to say, so Firefox Quantum, for those that wonder, it's Firefox 57. Hey there, Josh Kinder, nice to have you here. Firefox 57. It's a complete overhaul of Firefox browser. So basically, the new version of Firefox, they just, you know, erased everything from the past and started from scratch. I have to say it's nice. It's actually a beautiful browser. It does look much more modern than any browser except Edge. Kind of feels edgy a little bit if you want. It actually has a really fast browsing. I have to say one thing. It really is amazing how fast the browsing is with that new version. And you know what? It's kind of telling me that maybe I want to try it out a little more, I have to say. So it really is really good for speed. And you know, there's some features that were already existing, like the Pocket. You can you know, set tabs aside a little bit like Microsoft Edge, basically, things like that. And so this is kind of cool. And so it's a nice browser. I gotta say it is very nice. A word of caution to anyone that is actually Nishan Santos, nice to have you here, by the way. And we have Mr. Paul the Cat that just joined us for a little hello. Let's see if you guys can see him. Let's just put the camera a little bit down. I'm going to try to have him show up the camera. So here's Mr. Paul the Cat saying hello to everybody. Nice to have everybody on board. So sorry he's not watching the camera now, but he's just comfy right here. And this is non-alcoholic. This is really flavored water with some orange juice in it. So Mr. Paul the Cat saying hi to everyone. So anyways, a nice browser, pretty fast. Kind of makes me want to use it a little more because I want to see how it performs. I have to say that it is pretty amazing right now. So really cool new browser. So check it out. And tomorrow I am doing a browser test. And of course this is the non-official test. I will choose like, you know, 7 or 8 different web pages and load the pages on each browser and see the speed of the complete loading of the pages. Also, you know, how long does it take from, you know, not a restart of the PC and the first time that it actually will be full-blown, you know, there with Google search engine. How long does it take to start up, basically? Of course, once again, like I always say, it's you know, it's a non-scientific test. I get all these people that say, well, you're doing it wrong, you shouldn't do it like that. It's like, look, let me do my test the way I want to do it. And I think they are quite good in what speed these browsers are at different pages. And you know, by using 7 or 8 different pages but loading the same page on each, I think we have an idea of how fast the browsers are in the average of all of that. So I think it's going to be nice. And so tomorrow, that's coming tomorrow. We're going to test. You know, some people have been actually giving me some ideas here of, you know, browsers, and I don't want to test too many browsers. Okay, let's try to keep it simple. My idea right now is to test, by the way, Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Chrome, and Opera. Now, some people are giving me more information, and you know, some people want me to try other types of browsers, and so we'll see. I'm trying to keep it at the most popular browsers, but I'll you know, we'll see what we're going to do with this. And but for now, I'm probably going to do really, you know, do just the 4 main browsers I just mentioned. I'm not going to do Internet Explorer. I think it's an outdated browser that we kind of shouldn't use anymore, basically. So I'm not going to add Internet Explorer in there. I think we've moved on to Microsoft Edge if you want to use the Microsoft one. Alex is what is Cool Tech is will I do a battery test also? I will try to maybe not tomorrow, but I will try to do another battery test. I'm trying to find a way to do a battery test that would be convincing. Last time, zero. I was not convinced at all. I think I'll have to use my laptop like maybe for an hour. I'm going to try 1 hour test maybe, and doing the same thing, or browsing, or just browsing. Well, I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen, because Firefox now says that it's as efficient on battery as Edge. Edge says it's more efficient than ever with the fall careers update. So we got to to see how we're gonna do this. I mean, Ripple Pearl says she likes Internet Explorer 11. Well, it still works. It's still a browser that's updated, but it's kind of an old browser. As time goes by, we're gonna slowly move on to something else. So I don't really feel like doing any tests for Internet Explorer. So last time I used Internet Explorer is a long time ago. I use it, I think, for sometimes when people ask me questions. I just I don't use it, to give you an idea. I don't use Internet Explorer. When I fire up Internet Explorer on my computers, it's still to the native page that, oh, welcome, this is Internet Explorer, the new browser from Microsoft. What? Who cares? So, nice to have everybody here. Okay, what else do we have? We have Satya Nadella. I find it funny, personally. So, this is Microsoft's CEO, and he's in India right now for a conference over there. And of course, it's just funny because yesterday there was some journalists there that were asking questions. And one of the journalists that he answered some of the questions had an iPad. And Satya looked at him and said, oh, by the way, you should have a real computer. Kind of, a little jab at Apple here, saying, oh, that's not a real computer. You should get a real computer. I thought it was kind of funny, and it was a nice joke. So it's really, really one of these little moments that you're like, well, that's kind of funny. Shows how this guy is. That guy's funny, and that guy's kind of cool. One of the things that I have to I would like to mention a little bit. There's a very, very nice article, by the way. It's a paid article because it's in the premium of Torah.com, and I am a paid subscriber, so I see the premium articles. But there's a very nice article today of that talks about how Microsoft is always kind of in the background and nobody ever talks about anything. He was mentioning an article in the New York Times where, this week there was an article. I did see the post go through, and I didn't really bother making a news item about it. It's a news item that says that, IBM and Google are working hard for quantum computing and everything, but any of you that follows Microsoft a little bit knows that Microsoft a few weeks back in an event, they talked about how quantum computing was the future, and they were working hard on that. And the New York Times article says, oh, IBM and Google are going to be the top of quantum computing, and they just barely mentioned Microsoft, and they mentioned Microsoft in a negative way, like, oh, well, if Microsoft can do what these others are doing. And Paul has had a rant of that today, and which I do agree with. A lot of websites, news websites, seem to not want to talk about Microsoft, even though Microsoft is sometimes a big player in certain events and certain things. Or when they want to talk about Microsoft, there's always that negativity about Microsoft, which is totally true. I've noticed this over time a lot. And you're kind of, yeah, okay, why aren't you just having all the information about everybody exactly, as it is? I mean, Microsoft is a big player in some of the technologies, and yet a lot of the news bulletins don't want to talk about it. One article that I was reading, and this is going to give you an idea. One article that I did read last week that I thought was bull, and it was on, I think it was the Forbes website, which usually has interesting articles, talking how Apple is good at innovation, because they were talking about the iPhone 10. And the iPhone 10, about the face, the only thing I see innovative in there is maybe Face ID. And even there, I'm sorry, hello, we got Windows Hello, which is the same thing. And one of the things that that article is mentioning is how Apple is so good at innovation and new things. And the first thing I thought was, I'm sorry, Apple has nothing new that really reinvents anything right now. Actually, Microsoft has 10 times more new things and interesting things happening right now, but nobody talks about it. And it is sad because, I might sound like a Microsoft fanboy. I'm not necessarily a fanboy, but I have a lot of respect for Microsoft for what they do and they are capable of doing. And I find it kind of sad that these news websites never talk about how Microsoft has a lot of innovation behind it. And I gotta say that, it's lack of communication. But one of the things I gotta say is how Microsoft has a lot of difficulty, talking about its stuff, has a lot of difficulty telling us how things are working out. They have a lot of, even with us users, they post these things sometimes and you're like, what are you trying to say? I don't understand what you're trying to say. For sure, and it's kind of, crazy. And Grateful Pearl says she reads and listens to Paul. I gotta say, Paul is lately, and that is actually, I'll have a rant at Paul Tarot. And hey, he's probably better placed than me to for anything. But I'll have my own rant of Paul. And the biggest problem with Paul Tarot is lately, in the past month and a half, 2 months, let's say in the past 6 months even, it's been a while, I do hear a lot of negative comments from Paul, which I wish he could, I understand, because he talks about, a lot about some of the difficulties with Microsoft and things that they do sometimes that it's like, what the hell? But I do find that he's been kind of a little negative, a little too negative. There's negative and negative. You could be negative about Microsoft for things. In hell, there are things on Microsoft that are totally idiotic, if you want. Like Grateful Pearl says, they do have major communications issues. They are unable to tell us things. I don't know why. That I don't understand. Why the hell aren't they capable of telling us something? I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, it's so easy to just like, well, this, and that. But I don't know. It's just crazy. Hey, Tim Brennan, nice to have you here. So, anyways, it's kind of interesting. But that article from Paul actually does reflect one thing that is very, very interesting. And it is true that if you don't talk about Apple or Google or something like that, nobody wants to talk about Microsoft. And, Microsoft is that company that has a lot of things going for it. But, maybe it's one of that thing is that communication issue is one. And the promotion of also, like Grateful Pearl says, and it's one of the things mentioned in the article today, the promotion of its own products, HoloLens, Windows Phone. There's a lot of problems there. I don't know if you spend, personally, if I would spend billions of dollars on acquiring a company and building phones, I'm going to spend a couple of $1 billion in promotion of all of that. They acquired that big company for billions. They made phones that were, frankly, great phones, but they didn't push them. It's like nobody knew there were Windows phones, or almost, and they just faded away, and you're losing billions of dollars. And there's too many of that at Microsoft. There's too much of that. HoloLens, about from having the demos everywhere, where are they? And where do I see people using them? I don't hear Microsoft talking about it much. So there are things like that that are big problem at Microsoft, and I can tell you that. So, you know, it's crazy, you know. Yeah, but I do understand, you know, Great Pro Sales not invested in Microsoft. They don't talk about Microsoft that much because they aren't invested in consumer side, but we've got to be careful here. Quantum computing is not consumer. That article on quantum computing from New York Times has nothing to do with consumer. It's just talking about technology and how these big companies are going ahead. Microsoft's in there. Microsoft is invested in quantum computing. They could have talked about it more. There are things like that, you know. For the consumer side, I do understand. Microsoft sees its future much more with the business side, and it always seen its future with the business side because, frankly, if you remove the business side, Microsoft would not be what it is today. The majority of what they do in revenue always been on the business side. Windows is a business operating system before it is anything for consumers. The business side kind of pushed some consumers and us into the Windows side because you were at work and you were at home, you wanted to have the same thing. Microsoft Office is a entirely business-oriented thing. I mean, you don't have Microsoft Office on your PC. If you're a regular folk that just wants to write a resume or something, you could do it with something else. Most people don't have it unless they need to work with it. So there's a lot of business, and it's of course increasing. Microsoft has cloud, you know, cloud computing and everything over there, but it does have kind of an ecosystem that they do have. Part of it is consumers, but consumers is a small chunk of all the money they make, basically. So, Tim, yes, I will be posting a video of the Windows updates for today. After the show today, I'll be talking about it for sure. So, you know. Hey, Farney Jr., nice to have you here. Mace Lady Catherine, nice to have you on board. So anyways, kind of, you know, that's Microsoft for you, I guess. The iPhone 8, I know, I always get this, well, I don't want you to talk about Apple too much. Well, just in passing, the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 10. So the iPhone 10 seems to be the major thing that everybody wants on the Apple side, but the iPhone 8 was released pretty much at the same time, and it's kind of interesting to see that pretty much all analysts are saying that the production of iPhone 8s are going to be really low next year. They're going to be like dropping 50% because they don't sell that well. And, you know, it comes down, if you just look at it, you know, generally, I'm a tech guy and I do live shows, so I want to have usually off, you know, as much as the latest technology I can because it's my job. But there's an interesting thing that I've been looking at here, and basically it's the fact that one of the reasons, you know, I mean, the iPhone 10 is probably one of the reasons why the iPhone 8 isn't really going to cash that much. I mean, if you're to spend $700 for an iPhone 8, and you're an Apple fan, you're going to go all the way to 1,000 and get the iPhone 10. Logically, that I think is what is going to happen. But also, I think there's that thing where you see the iPhone 8 and you got an iPhone 7 already, or even, I know a lot of people that have an iPhone 6. I don't see why, you know, they don't see why they should upgrade. They have a perfectly working phone. It's fast, it's good, it works well. And it's, you know, it's interesting, you know. I think that is part of the reason the future of smartphone is a little complex. I think a lot of people are going to say, well, you know, I'm going to invest. You know, it was last week, 2 weeks ago that I was talking about the European market where expensive smartphones are what people buy, yet they don't want, they keep their phones for many years, much longer than what these companies would kind of want to have. So, and I look at myself, and I've got this beautiful Galaxy, S7 phone, and I got to say one thing is that even with the contract ending, I'm satisfied with this phone. It's fast, it's good, it's beautiful, and I don't see why I should upgrade to a new phone, basically. So, it's kind of interesting. So, what else do we have in our news? Antivirus is in the news this week. Antivirus, I talked last week about how a lot of antivirus, basically there was a lot of people talking about how antivirus software are actually maybe a little dangerous, if you want, for security. And the reason, one of the reasons why this is because antivirus software is one of the only pieces of software that you install on a PC that has so much permissions, that can do so many things. Most software will actually just use the specifics of Windows into very, specific areas and don't have access to the full system. Typically a software will not have access, say, to, the Windows folders. It will not have access to all the folders of the user because there are some, protections there, and you need to give them permission to do that. Antivirus is an exception. You're giving antivirus a lot of permissions on a PC to go everywhere and touch everything. And that is because of security. You want to check everywhere to make sure that you are secure, but at the same time, it actually creates a problem. And the problem is, all of that access can be turned against the antivirus. And we've seen in the past week a lot of talk about one of the flaws that actually this created. There was a flaw in the quarantine system of every, and I mean every antivirus, where a virus could be taken out of the quarantine and put anywhere on your system because the antivirus and the NTFS file system in Windows actually are linked together. They have permission to do whatever they want, anywhere they want. And it was showing how you could actually get a virus through an antivirus. Now, if you have a third-party antivirus, by the way, they pretty much all have been updated, okay? They pretty much have all updated. So if you have Malwarebytes, if you have Kaspersky and McAfee, Norton, these have all been updated. The NOT32 from has been updated from ESET. Malwarebytes updated to make sure that it can't happen. But it just gives you an idea that when a software has too many permissions, it can be used against it and against you. And I'll keep what I always say: don't install third-party antivirus. Remember that you are the security in there, okay? You are the security in there. And Louis65, nice to have you here. Gabriel Ramos, nice to have you here. Sheriff's House, hello there, nice to have you on board. And by the way, I might have a fix for the pictures, your pictures that always have to reload every time. But it's a complex, little complex thing to do. So I'm trying to find a way to make the video as easy as possible to do. But apparently, it fixes that issue of the miniatures of pictures that always have to reload, and it takes a million years to actually refresh all of the pictures. And by the way, it's not a Windows 10 thing or problem. It's a general Windows problem Um, the um, Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows 8 all had that. It seems to be kind of a general thing across different versions, and it happens sometimes. So look for that this week. I don't know if I'll post it today, tomorrow, but it's definitely going to be there this week. I'm just looking at the easiest way to do it, so that not people won't get lost in the way of doing it. Andre Arias, nice to have you on board. Interesting study here, and I was looking actually at statistics of this. Okay, so the first one I've got here is the statistic of UK, United Kingdom schools. So you guys in the UK, apparently a study that was done with United Kingdom schools, public schools, showed that 54% of schools had no computer classes. And we are in 2017, where everything is computerized. Even the job that's the simplest job ever today is almost it's crazy. It's crazy. And it's amazing that in 2017 54% of schools don't offer computer classes. I think there's a problem there. So of course, now this is for the United Kingdom, but it made me kind of check out, what are the stats? Are there any stats in other countries around the world? So I found 3 other statistics that seem to show that kind of everywhere it's just the same thing. So in Canada, apparently that number is 44%. So it's less than the UK, so it means there's more people learning computers. I look at my nephews and nieces. These all seem, well, my nephews seem to have had computer classes, because I remember they were coming to me for all sorts of little things like USB thumb drives or diskettes or whatever. But still, I don't understand why that's not 100%. I think 100% of kids need to learn computers at a minimum. In the United States, that number is 51%. 51% of schools, public schools, are not offering computer classes. Half of the schools. I don't understand how come in 2017 we are there. How come half of the schools are not offering computer classes? I mean, come on. We are moving in the era of technology. And I mean, technology is everywhere. Even a cashier at a store works with a computer. That cash register is a computer. And having a minimum amount of, knowledge about how computers work is actually helping you even in a job like a cashier or whatever job you'll have. It's very, very sad. I don't understand. I mean, our education system, it needs to be, I couldn't find any statistics for, because here in Quebec, the province of Quebec, there's a lot of, the education system is pretty much governed by the province government here. And I couldn't find a stat on that one. I would really love to believe that people are actually much more computer oriented in school here. But you know what? Just looking at how all the problems we're having right now with our own education system, I wouldn't be surprised. It's probably nothing better than anybody else. But I mean, come on. Computers is the minimum. You need to have a minimum of knowledge today. I think every kid needs to have a minimum of knowledge of computers. One example is I know some friends of mine that they're still not computerized. They don't have computers, which is something kind of difficult for me to understand in 2017, that somebody doesn't have a computer at home. And their children don't have a computer at home to do anything with. No iPads, no nothing. And for me, these children will have a handicap later in life. Not being able to use technology every day will have a serious effect on what later in life they're going to do. It has to be, and I actually told him, I said, you know what, your children today need a computer at home. They need some technology. I mean, you can't, you're bringing up children that will not be functional and are in the future of our world because they have never used a computer. And in 2017, I don't think that should not be. So it's crazy, really crazy, when you think about it. And I think, it's the best way also to keep an interest. A lot of people are complaining, a lot of places are complaining we're gonna, we have a lot of labor problems because people are not technological enough, don't learn computers enough. Girls, there's still that big gap of girls versus boys in school with technology, with science, and the only way that this can change is to have them see all of that technology and all of that science and try to keep the interest there. So it's crazy. I can't believe that. And it's and it's all started, my little research all started with the fact that I was intrigued by that United Kingdom 54% of school with no computer classes. I'm like, what? Come on, we're 2017. And you don't think about that because you think about countries like the UK, you think of the United States, you think of Canada. You would think that countries that are supposedly the top of the world in their economies and their technologies would be so different. I would be, I didn't find any statistics. I'd be darn curious to see how many people, how many children have access to computers in China. I'm willing to bet you that, okay, we got to make things in perspective. Okay, China is that very uneven country. It's like India. China has millions of people that don't go to school and they are still, in poverty, and they live in the fields and they just, do the best to survive. And that is a big chunk of reality of China, because you got to be careful. China looks very advanced. It is on certain points. It is still, in China is still almost a third world country, and a lot of what it does. So we got to be careful with that. But okay, let's just take the chunk that goes to school, that's fortunate enough to go to school, to have learning. I can bet you, I'm pretty sure that Chinese schools are much more efficient at computer classes and technology to make sure that their own citizens later in life are with the evolving economy. I would be interesting. It would be interesting to see that, where they are exactly. But like I say, we got to be careful, because in China it's very unequal. Now here too, but it's worse in China. In China, there's still a big chunk of the population that still, lives like in the 19th century. So we've got to be careful with all of that, because it looks like a very modern, advanced country on the surface, and that's what they want us to see. Like any country in the world wants to kind of show the world we are top-notch. But in reality, every country, even Canada, we got some poverty, we got some people that barely can, pay their bills. In the U.S. also, in the U.S. you look at the poverty level and everything, and you're like, well, how can countries that have so much money have so much poverty also? But in China, it's like it's just incredible. There's really tens of millions of people that are still living in the countryside and have nothing, and we got to be careful with that. So Tim Robinson says I should print a banner, learn Windows 10 and computers, and stick it on all school windows. Yeah, that could be something. Why not? Computer classes here. I'll give the computer classes, and the schools around the world could give me a little something. It would cost them less than have computers, and they'd still have some learning. Oh, that's a good idea. So anyway, you know, it's really crazy. Ripple Pro says, having been a teacher, I can tell you that the problem is money, and finding a way to incorporate it into the Common Core curriculum impedes on the accountability testing. Absolutely. I you know, we talk about money all the time here in the education system here in Quebec, because here in Quebec, school is free for so you have primary school is free, high school is free, college is free. You gotta be careful. The free word is, yes, it's free, because college here compared to college in the United States is really free. Because it just costs you maybe a couple of, $300 or $400 per session, say $600-700 a year for college. University is a little more expensive here, but it's still so much better than in the U.S., where you will get out with a degree and it's going to cost you, you'll have $200,000 of debt. Here, just look at Gabriel that went to a university. His years of university, they kind of cost him. He had I think when he ended university, he had something like a $15,000 debt that he had to repay. Now, Gabriel, being a very organized guy, had put that money aside. So when it came time that he ended his university, he actually paid it back in full immediately, and it's gone. But 15, 20,000 to and maybe 25, 30,000, depending on where you go and what you do, which is still better than in the United States, where it's several $100,000 for the same university education, basically. But everything is money. Everything is money everywhere, and that absolutely is crazy. And you got to make choices also. Miss Lady Catherine says, if school had a Mr. G as a teacher, more kids would learn computers. It would make computer learning interesting. Well, thank you. That's, what, that feels good to hear, because that's one thing that I want to try to do. Have people interested in computers and technology, not just, send things in their face like this, It's pretty crazy. So it's interesting to see, but yes, money is a big thing. Okay, always on DRM. Very interesting this week, because we've been in the past few weeks. There's been a lot of talk about especially because of the Assassin's Creed Origins, a game from Ubisoft, and game DRM. Or digital right management. I mean, anti-piracy for games goes a long way back. I mean, on the Commodore 64, I remember having some form of anti-piracy things on the diskettes, so we could not copy them. Through the years, PCs and all computers and gaming consoles all had a specific way of trying to do things to prevent copy of games and piracy. But one thing that I can tell you, as honestly as a gamer from the past to today, I really agree totally with the report that came out this week that said, hey, DRM, digital right management, and anti-piracy measures do not work at all. being in that field and with the knowledge I have, and I won't go too much in it, the things that I've done with gaming in the past, I can tell you that's totally right. Totally right. The anti-piracy stuff does not work. Anyone that wants to have a game and have a pirated copy of it will have one. Anyone that has the knowledge of how to get one will have one. And there are people out there that are really, really good at just, going around the piracy stuff and still have the game work. So the study this week says, look, you're just annoying the regular users. You're just annoying the gamers. And all of that comes with the fact that a lot of people are complaining that the Ubisoft Assassin's Creed Origin is slowed down on some PCs because the digital rights management, the tools they use to see if it's a copy, are slowing down the machines. And it's crazy because the game starts and tries to find if the game is pirated, and well, I'm sorry, that type of thing is, who cares? I mean, somebody that knows how to program a little bit will remove it, and that's what's happening. And I mean, sorry, but you get anyone that wants to have Assassin's Creed Origin for free will know where to go and where to get it. And what's sad about this is basically, I, as a tech guy, have seen so many occasions where I fixed a PC for a client and that we reinstalled the software that has some DRM on it, or that checks to see if you are owning it, or people have lost some part, they've lost the key to unlock the software. And you see how all of that simply annoys people totally. So many of them, I remember one example is a client of mine that had the full version of Photoshop with all the add-ins and the add-ons to make it, to use every detail. He'd use Photoshop for his work every day. I remember we reinstalled his PC, and when it went time to activate, it wouldn't activate. And we tried so many things, and you know what? That guy called Adobe and raised hell with them, and they would not help him at all, even though that guy had paid like $1,500 for that thing. And you know what? When you look at that, all you feel like saying is, the hell with it. And you know what? I did not do it for him, because as a tech guy, I have a set of rules, and rules are important that I will never give anybody pirated software of any kind. But he, on his own, thanks to a friend of his, got a pirated copy of Photoshop. And after that, he never purchased Photoshop again. He was getting the latest versions with the pirated stuff, and he would say, F you. I'm not buying your software because you just shown me how you don't help me if I can't get it installed. It's just crazy. And I have so many examples, by the way, of things like that I can tell you one thing. It is true that DRM and anti-piracy measures just annoy people. And that's it. Alex Tuttle says, I use it for my work. If that was me, I'd be mad. Absolutely, and you have every right to be mad. You paid $1,500 for something and you can't have it activated again, and they are not going to help you with that. I can tell you one thing. This is nonsense. And what's happening is they don't understand that you're annoying everybody. And I'm sorry, but the person that wants to have a free version, a free copy of Photoshop knows where to go and where to get it. And they're out there and they work. So, you know, it's just crazy. It's a fight that's idiotic, you know. Adam Guardado, nice to have you here. You know, it's like having a copy, you know, it's the same thing with the, Microsoft's not too bad at it, you know. Microsoft understands a little more. But still, you know, Windows 7, I remember Windows 7 when it arrived and, you know, it was activated with a key on your machine. And if you'd install it on another machine, it would say, no, I'm activated on some other hardware. At least Microsoft wasn't too bad. You know, many times I had clients where, you know, we were moving to a new computer because the old one didn't work anymore. You call them up, you'd say, hey, just change the computer with a new one. They'd be quite good at, okay, well, here's the activation key for the new computer, and that's it. At least that's an okay way of doing things, you know. Adobe could have done the same, saying, oh, okay, well, you got a new PC or you changed this or that, you know, but it's just crazy. So it's just crazy when I can tell you that. That chatbot in Australia is just so cool. That chatbot, for those that didn't see the news item, so in Australia, they have a chatbot that is actually made to scam the scammers. So basically, hey Patrick Manny, nice to have you here. Happy birthday. So in Australia they actually have a chatbot. What you do is if you receive a scam offer. So an example, you get that guy that says he's got millions of dollars to give you, and you know, just reply back so we can get all the you know, all your personal details to deposit the money. And of course it's a scam. You're going to be robbed of money. So in Australia they did a chatbot that actually you just enter the email, or you kind of send a copy of that scam with the email, and it actually the chatbot will reply to the scammers and will actually have them lose their time. So for example, if they ask for, you know, kind of a bank account number, they're going to give some false information, and they're going to say, like, the chatbot's going to say, oh, to be safe, instead of sending you the bank account numbers in one email, I'll send them in several emails. And it always sends you emails like with each number, and it just annoys the other people there. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think there should be more of those. It's great. When I saw that, I was like, oh, this is so good. Let's annoy the scammers. That is the best way to do it. So I really like that. Disney streaming service. This is an interesting one because you know, Netflix had the rights to a lot of Disney content, and so it gave us a lot of content that was very interesting on Netflix, of course, because Disney, I mean, let's face it, Disney is not a small player here. It's one of the major movie catalogs in the world, and I do understand that they probably asked too much money and Netflix could not give that much. But now they're saying, hey, we're going to do a streaming service, and apparently it's coming very soon. In early 2018, we're going to have that. And one of the things that is kind of cool is that a lot of analysts are saying, you know what, Netflix will maybe suffer a little from this, because even if it's not there yet, pretty much everybody says the Disney streaming service is actually going to be popular. They already announced that they will be less expensive than Netflix. And I mean, the amazing catalog of content that Disney has, plus they're talking about new Star Wars movies. They're talking about Star Wars TV shows, or shows that will have on the streaming service that will be Disney streaming only. that means that they will have an amazing advantage with some exclusive content and content that people want to see. So that is going to be an interesting battle next in 2018, I think. How Disney streaming service versus Netflix. We also learned this week that Amazon, that already has Amazon Prime Video, which is kind of a Netflix-like thing, is going to have, probably in 2018, a ad-supported free version of their streaming service, which is kind of interesting also. Hello there, Mr. DeVault. Nice to have you on board. So it's kind of interesting. I can't wait to see this and see the effect that it could have to even, maybe Netflix subscribers. I mean, some people will subscribe to both. Some people will have Netflix and Disney. But a lot of people will want to maybe subscribe to only one. Kind of interesting. Windows Insiders, that bit of news that I have for that is that we've learned, and thanks to a lot of you that actually have sent me little hints here and there about it. So we've learned that some people going through their insider preview of 17.035 started seeing that, hey, there's a lot of what the new timeline feature, which is coming to Windows 10, it seems to be almost ready and there to roll out. So it means in the next few weeks we will have probably some first features of the timeline stuff, which is kind of nice, and it's really, really nice. So it's interesting to see that this feature will roll out to us, but we also know that the timeline feature, which is a feature, by the way, for those that wonder, timeline is a feature that you can go back in time, but not, it's app related. So the timeline, for example, if you are in the, say you're in the News app, okay, Microsoft's News app, you want to see what you did or see what content that was available a week ago. The app will have a possibility to, oh, you want to go back to that of last Friday or last Wednesday or so. You'll be able to do that, and you'll be able to do that with all apps that are compatible. So that means whatever app you are using that is compatible with timeline, you'll be able to see what you were doing, what was done, and how it was at a specific date, and that timeline will go to the back. So it's not, no, it's Alex says not like Apple. No, it's not like Time Machine for Apple. That we have an equivalent, which is already in Windows 10, which is file history. File history in Windows 10 for the backups is totally the equivalent of the Time Machine for Apple. And no, it will not take hard drive space because it will be cloud-based. That means with your Microsoft account, all of that will be kind of cloud-based, not really taking space on your machine directly, but more being like, we can show you what you were doing at a specific time. Now, it's not going to be, you won't be able to go back 6 months. It's a shorter time that you'll be able to go back, but you'll be able to go back, but the apps need to be compatible with it. So that means not every app's going to use that feature, but apps like, I could see Microsoft Edge using it. Some of the core apps will be, of course, compatible. And if you create an app for the Windows Store, you can create it so that timeline actually works. So it's a very, very interesting feature. It's really app by app related, and it's going to be very, very interesting the way it's going to work. So basically, what's going to happen is there's going to be, basically there's already synchronization. We're already in a lot of the things we do is already synchronized to the cloud, and that's why within multiple Windows 10 machines we can go back and see what we were doing. So basically, technically, that synchronization will give you that timeline feature in the past. Hey Vaults, oh really? Toshiba just sold 95% of the TV business to iSense. Wow, sad. I like Toshiba. I always loved Toshiba. Toshiba was one of my favorite brands for a lot of things. My PCs even are almost always Toshibas, and always had a lot of so all you'll need, Alex, will be to have a Microsoft account. Your Windows 10 will need to be linked to your Microsoft account. The rest, it's going to be done automatically. It's all going to upload to the cloud. There might be a little bit of things that are going to be like really local, but not a lot. It's really cloud related. I'm not sure I want to buy an iSense. I don't know why. I've seen these all the time. It's like, no, I don't want to buy an iSense. I'm not sure I want to have that. They better show us that it's the same quality, because I mean, man, I don't want to buy an iSense. So anyways, it's coming to the timeline feature is coming to us insiders, of course, first. But one of the interesting things that's very, very interesting here is the fact that it's coming to the Windows Fall Careers Update also. So that means we're testing it. We're going to test it probably very soon, but it's not going to be a feature coming to the next version in March. It's going to also roll out to the Fall Careers Update that people already have. So that's going to be interesting. As for the rest, file limits, stuff like that, I have no idea, Alex. We don't have all the details of the time of that feature of timeline. It's when it's going to roll out, we're going to have a better idea of everything. That's for sure. Android Oreo is on 0.3%. 0.3%. So basically, that's going to be interesting to see how fast it rolls. But 0.3%, which is kind of really nothing, just shows how Android ain't really going up very, very fast. But it's just it's just one of those things that needs to be fixed somehow. But it's kind of crazy. So 0.3%. They were saying that the Apple iPhone at the same amount of time with iOS 11 already had 30% of phones that were upgraded. So it shows you that it's not the same game. But it's also not the same thing, different devices for sure. Vault says timeline feature he doesn't trust Microsoft much with his data, so he doesn't really want to have it there for sure. DSL DG2, I'm going to turn off Cortana. Well, you can't really turn off Cortana unless you go to the registry. You can stop it from doing a lot of things, but you can't really turn it off technically. It's one of those things that they might have a better switch at it. But I'm going to talk about Cortana in the next few days for sure. That's everybody. I don't really care much about Microsoft. I don't think they do nothing with my data. But we all have our ideas of what Microsoft can or cannot do, or does not. Okay, some questions that are coming to us, by the way. Fox News on the web hacked last night. Got access denied on all browsers from midnight to 3 a.m. Oh, really? That's interesting. Kind of interesting. Yeah, that big merger, Time Warner and Turner Broadcasting, they need to drop CNN, and that, I hate those really huge mergers. I'm not a big fan of these big mega companies that will actually do everything and be very powerful. It's kind of not cool, basically. I don't blame the company that's being sold, though. You know, if I have a successful business and, you know, if somebody would offer me $10 million for my YouTube channel, I gotta say I would tell you guys that I'm selling and I, you know, start something else somewhere else. You know, you can't blame me for $10 million. I'd probably sell the YouTube channel, but you know, it's just, you know, when everybody gets too big and controls everything, it's crazy. We have that problem here. Québécois, which is a Quebec media company, controls so much here. And to give you guys an idea, when a actor, okay, and I can tell you that if a TV actor talks against Québécois, he will never again have a contract with any of the TV channels or the cable channels linked to that company. Now that, when you think about it, is way too much control over what you can do. And unfortunately, everywhere it's getting like that. It's just totally crazy. Manga Devi, nice to have you here. So, you know, it's just crazy. And I think these are just way too big. Okay, first questions are from Ralph. And Ralph wants to know, all his devices are on N, so the Wi-Fi protocol N, and he is purchasing a new router and says, is it really that important to get an AC router? They are more expensive. You know what? You can buy an N router, but I would totally suggest, if you are into a router, buy the latest, greatest. Get an AC protocol router. Make sure that it has the latest. Why? Because those devices that you have right now, one day you'll change one of them, and the new version, the new tablet, the new laptop, whatever, they will be AC compatible, and they'll be happy to have that. It has a lot of a lot of advantage. AC does get more solid Wi-Fi connectivity. It has more range. It's very interesting, and you know, it's. If you're about to buy something, buy it. Buy an AC router. It's compatible with N and everything, but at least you'll know you'll have something that is capable of more when you get those new devices running. And that's pretty much my take on it. What do I think of Surface line of devices from Microsoft? I think they're nice. They started off to a kind of a rocky start. They started off to being a little problematic. But now, with the latest versions, you know, I have a friend of mine that is very difficult in devices. You know, it needs to be a really good device to say it's a good device. He's just got a Surface Pro, the latest. He's in love with it. And he's a tech guy, by the way. So it gives you an idea that, okay, these are pretty nice. And he's totally in love with it, the Surface Pro device he's got, with a i7 and 9 inside it. And it's really, he loves it. So I think, you know what, they are nice. They are nice, but they are premium devices. They are a little expensive. And personally, before purchasing a Surface device, I'd look around and shop around for other brands that probably will have more, more power and more options for maybe the same price you'll pay for the Surface devices, because they are a little expensive for sure. So Walt says, and always in practice, I get more stable connections on N with AC, especially with obstacles between client and server. Both are server by different routers. So yeah, there's a lot of the biggest problem with routers and Wi-Fi is the chipsets. Also, a lot of chipsets don't like to talk to each other. And there's also, that creates all sorts of issues also. It's crazy with all of that, but still, you know, better off buying an AC and having the latest technology. You still can connect with the N protocol anyway. So, you know, why not have the latest technology anyways? What else do we have? Okay, Ralph plans on getting an AMD Ryzen PC, and he wants to know what I think. You know what? Go for it. These new Ryzen CPUs, it really is amazing what they've done on the AMD part with these new CPUs that seem to be very powerful. So you know what, anybody, from what I've read, and I've read a lot of stuff on these, you know what, all I can say is, if that's what you want to do, go for it. Absolutely go for it. I can tell you that. So you know. Mega Davey says Windows 10 Fall Careers Update. Start menu does not want to work at second startup, and Edge does not work either, and do not search either. Yeah. I would say that you know, the best thing to do, if it's an upgrade, would be to do a clean install. When you got problems like that with you know, these issues, clean install completely. You know, go to the Microsoft website, download the media creation tool, create a USB thumb drive with Windows 10 on it, and reinstall from scratch, and things should be okay. So, and if you've just upgraded and you really don't want to do that, or are kind of scared of doing that, you can always go into the Windows Update and roll back. It's going to roll back to the previous version of Windows 10, and you can stay there if you wish by putting the metered connection. But you know, one of the things that I have to say all the time is, for people that say, well, I don't want to do a clean install or anything. You know, you gotta do it sometimes on every PC. And when somebody tells me clean install, I don't want to do it, I always say, well, you know, I'll often say, well, you gotta live with your problems. From time to time, you need to do it. It's yeah, you can try a refresh, but a refresh doesn't work necessarily all the time. So you know, can't upgrade my HP tablet. Can I delete the OneDrive folders? I use the same account on my laptop. That's a good question. I would say, did you? I just saw something. I think you did send me here. I saw that there was an email that came through. Let me just go here. So yeah, Douglas Elliott. Yeah, you sent the request here too. So before I answer the OneDrive query, Douglas, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to test it. I'm going to test it on my own machines with some of the folders, and I will reply back to you with my answer, because I'm scared of telling you yes. Technically, I think you could, but what you should do on your HP tablet, okay? What I would do, that will work. Make sure that OneDrive doesn't sync. You can actually tell it not to sync. And then you could delete all the folders that are on the tablet for OneDrive, and that will be okay. But the ones that are on the tablet, you know, make sure that you don't mess up and delete the ones that are on OneDrive. That's different. But that could be one. Prevent the sync of OneDrive, and then, you know, Manga Davey, one of the things also that you got to be careful is the software you've got installed. What do you install in software? Okay? Because some software break the Windows Start, and it doesn't work well. And you got to be careful with that also. You know, any third-party antivirus you might be using, but you know, technically a clean install, you should all of that should be working. But I'll be testing it anyways, Douglas, because I'm a little curious with that. As for the OneDrive, I am coming to the videos of OneDrive soon, probably next week, because I want to, because there's a lot of misunderstanding of file on demand and OneDrive itself. So we're gonna I'm gonna try to keep it as simple as possible, and I will have a full series of OneDrive coming up in the next week or so. It's actually something I've been thinking. I started thinking about it last week. I started taking notes of exactly, what I want to explain with OneDrive and how it works, file on demand, all of that, and also have people understand that you've got stuff on OneDrive and you've got stuff on the local PC, and that it's easy to get mixed up on what is what. So we're gonna try to to make it as simple as possible with that. So it's coming, and for that, Douglas, I will be checking out. I'm gonna play with OneDrive, because anyways, with the videos, I need to play with OneDrive. I need to play with OneDrive a lot and see exactly the behavior of OneDrive depending on what you do. And so by having OneDrive, tweak OneDrive, play with OneDrive, delete folders, add new folders, new stuff, and see how everything is going on, it's going to be also easier for me to explain everything. So it's coming up, okay? I really want to do this one, because OneDrive is something I use and I actually like, for also the backup of stuff, of all the things, So, well, Dripple Pearls, that's the thing with OneDrive. On OneDrive, what is the cool thing of file on demand, it is going to be okay. It could be a driver, Manga Davey. It could be a driver on your PC. Have you updated all your drivers from that machine with the latest versions? You go to the manufacturer website, you check the drivers for graphics and for the different hardware. Also important. But with file on demand, there's a lot of things you can do, and of course you got also to think about one of the things that is the limit for a lot of, I got a 1 terabyte limit, so I also got to think in terms of the limit that everybody has, in order to have that working also. So anyways, it's coming up. I'm gonna do that series for sure. So I'm gonna check it out. Okay, what else do we have here? We have Tommy that has questions that he actually had about his CPU. So he says that he's got a CPU that goes from about 60, 70 degrees, 76 degrees Celsius. You've seen it even peak at 83 Celsius. The tech guy that he talked to says that at 83 Celsius it's dangerous, because it can it's a fire hazard and so on. Okay, first of all, it's not really a fire hazard. I've seen CPUs go really high, but one of the things for sure is that having the best cooling is the is the best thing you can do. So of course, if you can get a better fan and a better heatsink on that CPU, that of course is something you should do. Now, if it's an AMD CPU, I can tell you 60 to 76 is in the range of a lot of those. And one of the things, a lot of the CPUs that I've used and that I've seen from AMD typically get very high readings and temperature and still work fine. So that's one thing that you got to know. One other thing that you need to know is that the utility that you use for the temperature is not necessarily accurate. In a lot of the tests that have been done, it's that the temperature that the reading gives you and the real world temperature is often very different. And personally, I've seen CPUs go at 80 degrees and work perfectly well and have absolutely no problems. So I'm not super concerned, and if it's mostly in the 60, 76 Celsius range, I don't necessarily see that it is a problem. One of the things that I would look at, and it's two things here. So your PC setup, the way that, I know it's a desktop you've got, make sure that your desktop is not cluttered, like, in a little space with no air that can actually move around it. So make sure that you have at least a couple of inches of space, on each side, on the back, and the front, because the air is flowing in that box. And if it's inside a small enclosure, you are actually you're creating your PC is becoming hot because there's no it can't suck in the air that it needs to actually cool down. Make sure that it has a lot of space around it so that the airflow is working. The other thing, one of the things that sometimes helps tremendously, I don't know how the fans you've got on your PC, because there's typically, the most basics of PCs and desktops will have the fan on the CPU, and we'll have the fan on a in the power supply, and that's at the most basics. Some will have a fan on the GPU, on the graphics processor, but also often a well-made desktop PC will also have fans on the case itself. So that means if you don't have any fans on the case itself, one of the add-ons that could be inexpensive and a very good investment is a fan that is actually would be on the case and suck air within the box. Because one of the things you got to understand, that temperature here will be related to the temperature inside the desktop, inside the box. If it kind of gets warm within the box, say your box, inside the box, it gets to 40 degrees. You got to think that your CPU starts off at a 40 degrees base when it's actually not working. So of course, when you start using it, it's going to really, really ramp up the temperature. And having a fan that pushes air inside the box could be a good idea. Make sure that you've got space around your box, because I've seen, over the years, I've seen some clients that have their desktops in a in a cabinet, and there's just no space around it anywhere for any air to actually flow. That's kind of something important. Just make sure that the air flows around your box, and there's some space. And like I said, a case fan could be a very, very nice investment. And think about the fact that if it's many CPUs I've seen through the years could go to 80 degrees and it's all right. I remember a Pentium, one of mine, which was, I think it was a dual core that I had here that I could measure the temperature. And when I would play games, it'd go on like 85 degrees or something. The top games I'd play, I'd hit 85 degrees Celsius. And, the fan just compensated. The fan was running fine. It was made to do that. It was made that when at the maximum usage, you might hit a peak. If you live in a country where it's hot and you have no air conditioning, that's of course something. Here I see it all the time. One of the things that I see regularly here in Montreal is people that call me in the summertime say, hey, my PC stops when I use it. It shuts down. And, you know, it doesn't happen in the wintertime. Why? Because in the wintertime, it's cool, you know, and your PC doesn't get the same high range temperature. In the summertime, you know, you don't have air conditioning. Well, if it's 30 degrees Celsius, it's hot. You know, your PC is running in an environment that's already warm. So, of course, these temperatures will go higher, but they're designed to work within these ranges. Just make sure you've got enough airflow around the box, and make sure that, you know, maybe adding just a cooling fan on the case could be a good idea. You know, it is true that you want to have the CPU go maybe, you know, at lower the temperature as much as you can, but we don't go crazy also. You know, typical CPUs will easily run at 60, 70 degrees Celsius, and that's all right. And I just gotta tell you one thing: if your PC really gets over the range that it should, it's gonna shut down. When your PC starts shutting down, now you've got a problem. Now you've got a serious issue. But if it doesn't shut down, it might not, you know, it might be in its range where it's perfectly normal. And each CPU, each generation, all have different ratings. So, you know, you can say, oh, I've got 60 Celsius, it's too warm. Well, no, maybe for your CPU, it's okay. For another, it might be hot. It all depends. And keep the fan and the heatsink clean. That is very important. Make sure that there's no dust, especially on the heatsink. The way it's made with the metal shavings, it's easy to have dust in it. That is not, you know, if you spray compressed air, you'll remove what's on top, but you'll see that within the fins of the heatsink, the dust can still be cluttered there, especially if there's somebody smoking in the house. Smokers have the worst problems of dust and gooey problems with their CPUs and their fans on their computers. Anyone that smokes, that CPU gets into a yellow, brownish, gooey thing that is, I gotta say it, disgusting. Every time I've cleaned PCs of smokers, God, it is horrible. A friend of mine has a MacBook, and she was telling me the MacBook was, you know, going like, the fans were going all the time. And when I actually opened the MacBook, there was this brown, gooey thing in the back where actually the air flows out of the MacBook. And it was completely blocking everything. So it tells you that you got to be, you know, there's a lot of things that can also make these temperatures and make your PC go mad. And, you know, one of the things you got to listen to is your fan running full speed all the time or not. There's sometimes an indication of maybe you're running hot when the fans are running all the time. Hey, take care, Christine Bowman. Nice to have you on board, as usual. And finally, for people that have laptops that are overheating, a cooling pad is very, very good. I cannot, you know, I have to say to anybody that has a laptop that runs hot, get yourself a cooling pad. For several reasons. A cooling pad will not just cool your laptop and maybe preserve it and make it run longer, but also if you want to put your laptop on your knees or something, it's kind of cool because it works well like that. It at the same time keeps your laptop on a solid surface so it doesn't overheat. And never leave your laptop on a bed, sofa, anything that is soft. It actually blocks the little vents on the bottom, and your laptop can easily overheat if it's blocked. So this was the show number 96 for November 14th, 2017. Don't forget, today is Patch Tuesday. Security updates. I'll have videos talking about these updates coming up later today. So if you guys want to see that. And yeah, well, vacuum cleaner, I don't like the vacuum cleaner on inside a PC. You know, on the exterior case maybe, but a vacuum cleaner inside the PC is not a super good idea. I have a great example of a client of mine that called me up once. Says, hey, I opened the desktop and I vacuumed the inside of the PC, and now it doesn't boot anymore. And what he didn't see is that he sucked out little jumpers that were on the motherboard, and he didn't notice. So it's kind of really, really crazy. So I told him, okay, that's going to be a tough one because you sucked out many jumpers, and I need to know where they were and in what position they were. It's just kind of, okay. So, you know, I'd rather spray air than have something suck air from those, from the computer. Yeah, a raised surface, you know. One of the things I enjoyed once, on one of my laptops, I had I had changed the battery, and I had bought a battery that was a high capacity battery, so it had a bump under it because it was bigger than normal. So basically, the laptop was raised because of the bump under for the battery, because it needed more space for all the extra power that it was giving. And I like that because it actually raised the laptop a little bit, making the air move, you know. So you know, for Windows 10 Grateful Pearls, it's security updates, and I believe there are some bug fixes within it also. I do believe there's some bug fixes also. It's not just security, but for Windows 10. So you can try it out. Maybe it's going to fix something for sure. What else do we have? Yeah, who knows, Sheriff's House. If I do see something that has any relation to that, I'll let you know. So, Woodbeast on YouTube, nice to have you here. Yeah, why not? You know, Woodbeast, why not have the latest version of Windows? It has quite a lot of new little interesting features that are kind of cool. So, you know, and you'll be in the latest version. This Vault says vacuum can be used if you set it to blow, so you need to look out for not killing PC with static electricity buildup. That is very, very important also, absolutely. Also, one thing that is very, very important when you blow air in your PC, make sure that you don't have the fan run too fast, because when you blow air on say the CPU and you blow it through the fan, it will make the fan start spinning because of the fins. If you actually have it spin too fast, it can actually break the fan. You got to be careful with that also. So I will of course be posting the videos. So what's coming up today? My plan for now, right now, okay, it's what, 4:30 p.m. Late afternoon here. My plan right now for later today, there will be the video for what's in the updates that we're having today on the Patch Tuesday. How much, you know, how many critical updates and so on. We'll be looking a little bit of, you know, what are the bug fixes in there. And I'm planning to do maybe 1 or 2 videos on the Insider channel about some of the features of 17.035. So, you know what, Grateful Pearls, it's not a bad idea, because I actually have had some of these makeup brushes, which are very small, or really thin paintbrush also, on some very small spots that needed to be cleaned out sometimes, and I've used that successfully a lot. So that's an idea also. So Woodby says he's installed the updates an hour ago. Mine went fine. The updates took maybe 5 minutes to install, so it wasn't very, very long. And of course, we'll be talking about that later on. So you know, probably for 3 or 4 videos will be posted later today. For sure. Patrick Manny says 17 out of 25 broken for me. Lots of bugs, especially the network discovery bug. So, interesting. Yeah, and please, one of the thing about compressed air, by the way, do not put the can upside down. I've seen somebody do that. Keep the can upright, because there's a liquid in there that creates that pressure for the compressed air. If you put it upside down, the liquid will start coming out instead of the air. And you don't want to have that at all. And I've seen a couple of people doing that. Do not put the can, don't even lean the can a little bit, especially if it's brand new. You want to have air, not liquid, come out of the can. That's for sure. What else do we have? See, Tim Shell uses them too. Oh, man. So, hey, everybody. Take care. I'll be leaving for... I'm going to go cook myself a little something. I don't know what to eat tonight. So I'm going to look at what I have in the fridge and be careful. Check out what I'm going to eat. Yeah, you know, Tim, what you could do is very simple. You can actually, you know, use the little the little brush, and then you know, if you have if you want to wear gloss after, that's up to you, you know. And you could put high heel shoes and make a super funny video of how you clean your PC dressed with high heels and gloss. That could be nice. That reminds me of a interesting little story of karaoke. I went to the karaoke one evening, and everybody there, you know, it was one of those nights when there's not a lot of people in the bar, but everybody you know, and we were all singing songs. And one of the waitress there, which I know very well, she looks at me, and she was actually putting gloss on, and I go to get a beer. She looks at me and she says, "Don't move." And she starts putting gloss on me, and I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, well, let's push this to the maximum. So I went to the bathroom, took some toilet paper to make boobs, and I was like, okay, and I'm going to sing some Madonna. So, you know, it was kind of okay. Oh, I like that. Wood Beast on YouTube. RuPaul PC cleaning. Welcome to RuPaul's PC cleaning. Oh my God. I'd like to see a RuPaul episode of all the drag queens that are cleaning PCs. That could be funny. Paul the cat cleans Shell's PCs. Actually, he kind of puts cat air everywhere in my PCs. Oh man. Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a cat that comes here and steals Paul's food. And I've actually just used the compressed air and do a little psh, and I can tell you the cat just flies away. He's totally scared. And I've done that a few times, and I haven't seen him lately. So I think he understands, yep, okay. Yeah, that's very important. Sheriff's House has a very, very important one. Not too much lipstick on the processor fan. Very important, Tim. Very important. Furball update. Yep, furball update. Well, actually, you know, I'm sure that would make one of the hell of a funny video, you know, in high heels, wearing a dress. So welcome, guys. We're gonna fix PCs today. God. So, anyways, it's always nice to have all of you on board. Thanks, Andre Arias says loves my cat. Everybody loves my cat. It's just great. After Dame Edna, we now have Tim. What should we call Tim, dressed as a woman, cleaning his PC? Lipstick, good thermal paste. Didn't have thermal paste, so I used my girlfriend's lipstick, and it works fantastically well. Actually, imagine the tech guy goes to you know, fix a computer, and when he opens his bag with all the tools, in the side there's all the lipstick stuff. It's like, that's kind of weird. Oh God! Now I'm having all sorts of ideas. That would be crazy. Mother Riley. Mother Riley and her PCs. Oh God. Oh man. I just loved Dame Edna stuff when I was younger. I would watch that. My mom would watch that, and just loved Dame Edna. Can tell you that. Oh God. Say that. What does your wife say about your girlfriend? Oh man. I'm one of those guys that's friends with all the women at the karaoke bar. And I'm a perfect gentleman, so nobody never worries about anything. I'm always a perfect gentleman. So, a toolbox for all my makeup. I like to see that. Oh, you guys are lucky. I don't have money for beer in the next few days. I have to wait for my my AdSense to come home next week on next Tuesday when I get the AdSense payment. So I've got to be very careful with my cash this week. So not really any beer for the next few days. And so I'll try to keep the beers just for the radio show this weekend. So, okay, next shows. Don't forget, everybody, Windows Insider Hour. Lots of threesomes. Windows Insider Hour. Windows Insider Hour at 3 p.m. on Thursday. We're going to talk about maybe a new build. Who knows? And well, it's complicated, Vaults. It's not just that. It's Microsoft is paying, but I've got a lot of things to repay back, so I'm a little short on cash. But the way things are going right now. I'll start breeding a little more around January or February, and it's going to be more relaxed. But for now, I'm just that's strict minimum. So. Also for the radio shows, by the way, Friday and Saturday, 2 radio shows coming up. So 2000 hours universal time for that. We'll talk about radio. I don't think they will be record breaking, especially the Saturday one, because on Sunday morning I will be interviewed. Well, actually, I will be one of the guests at a local FM station here in Montreal that has a 1-hour special on, it's a show called the International Radio Report. And we will be, of course, talking about radio and the future of radio, which is going to be really cool. So take care, everybody. Always love you. Hey there, Benjamin. Thank you for the nice comments about the videos and everything. Pretty cool. So take care, everybody. Stay safe. Love you all, and see you either Thursday for Windows Insider, the radio shows, or see you next week. We are here 3 p.m. Eastern, 2000 hours Universal Time every Tuesdays. So another live tech show already over. Take care, everybody. Love you all. Stay safe, please.